Hey, how you doing? Martin Lopez from martinlopez.com and VA Mortgage Bootcamp. And it's been a while since I've done some live videos, but things have happened. A lot of things have happened in 2020, and 2021 is going to be no different in the changes and all the different things we're going to have to navigate in the real estate industry. So I've been in the real estate industry for over 37 years. I know I don't look a day over 30 years old, but I've been in the business for over 37 years. And every day I learn something new. Every day there's something new to learn. So you got to surround yourself with smart people, with people that know the business, people that understand their niche in the business. And rather than me read up on Prop 19 and share that information with you, I have two experts. I have a broker from EXP, Steven Wener, amazing real estate agent, one of the top real estate agents in San Diego. Highly recommend his services. And Steven Bates, I got the Steves on, and Steven Bates, who's an attorney. Steve Bates Law, I believe, is his practice. And let's bring him on and let's talk about Prop 19. How you guys doing?
Hey, good morning.
Good, thank you.
Thanks for jumping on with me. I really, really appreciate it. So let's just jump into it. Let's see if we can knock this out. And I do something that's called Focus 13, which is I work in 13-minute segments. So let's see if we can knock this out in 13 minutes. So Steven, Steve Bates, how about if we start with you? Give us an idea, breakdown of Prop 19.
So Prop 19 is a big change in the law. The current law, the old law, as we know it, allows for a transfer of property from a parent to a child, or in some circumstances from a grandparent to a grandchild. And normally property gets reassessed. The property taxes are reassessed on a change of ownership or when property is inherited. But current law allows for an exemption. So a child or a grandchild can receive the property through an inheritance or a gift, and the property taxes don't get reassessed. It's a great deal. It applies to the primary residence and any other real estate up to $1 million of assessed value. So it's a great break. That all has been changed dramatically under Prop 19, which was passed in November. The effective date of Prop 19 is February 16th of 2021. So just over a month from now, this goes into effect. It'll be a big change. The major changes in the law now limit the re-exemption exclusion. That is, limit the property that can be passed down without getting reassessed to only the primary residence. So it eliminates rental properties, commercial properties, vacant land, anything that's not the primary residence of the parent typically is now going to be reassessed when it's passed down to the next generation. And there's even restrictions on the primary residence. The biggest change is that if a child inherits property from a parent, they have to move into the parent's property within 1 year of the parent's death and establish that as their primary residence. If they don't do that, the property will be reassessed. So those are the biggest bullet points. It's really a major change. It affects my practice because lots and lots of folks intend to leave their property that they've accumulated to their kids, right?
Excellent. Yeah, no, that's been a big thing. And what was the old rule, Steven Wener? What was the old rule? How did that work? Do you remember that one?
Well, with all the transfer of wealth and tax avoidance, you always have to defer to an expert on that, a CPA or an attorney. So I'm not going to talk about all of the things that would be transferred over, but one of the things that I wanted to talk about that Steve didn't touch on yet was just on Prop 60 or 90 in the state of California. If you were to sell your existing property and buy something else and transfer the tax over, now it's above or below the range where before it was up to 5% above and then anything below. So I'd love to hear about that and how that applies. And I don't know if there was an actual ceiling or not on how much you could buy above and still transfer the current tax rate. But for your question, Martin, we're going to say you got to default to the expert on that one because that was
absolutely. I love it. So Steve, you said a lot of stuff, and I just want to nail it down. So parent to child. If I'm the parent, that's you. I think you echoing a little. So Steven, I'm going to take you off as right before. I'm going to mute you, and then I'm going to ask you the question, and I'll unmute you. So specifically, parent to child, grandparent to child. Let's talk about that real quick.
Okay. So generally the most common transfer is from a parent to a child. And under the current law, before it changes, when it transfers from a parent to a child, the child gets to take that property and keep the parents' usually quite lower income property taxes. It won't be reassessed to current value. The process from grandparent to grandchild only applies if that middle generation is deceased. So if the child of the grandparent or the parent of the grandchild is gone, then they allow that same transfer. They treat it the same way as a parent-child transfer. That's the current law, and that applied to all types of real estate: primary residence, commercial property, rental properties, everything. But the new
It
law,
used to, or it is now? It is now, or it used to?
that's what it is now until February 16th.
Got it. So people are wanting to transfer now before that hits. Is that what's happening?
I'm sorry?
Are people wanting right now before February 16th to transfer to stay in that exclusion?
Yes, in many cases that's true, but what you have to, there's also an income tax aspect to that as well. So transferring title, giving the transferring property to a child now may save on property taxes, but it may increase income tax when that child sells the property later. That's because they won't get a step up in basis on the property. So you've got to really do the analysis and balance out what makes more sense: save the property taxes or minimize income tax when the property is eventually sold by the child.
That's right. That's good.
So,
That's good.
And one of the things that I'm still not completely certain of, Stephen, is with respect to if a parent gives something over to a child, let's say there's multiple children and multiple properties. Is it, if you give one house to one child, another house to another child, are those all fitting under the exemption? That's one thing I'm not totally clear on yet.
Right, right. Well, under current law, that is you could do that. If the parents had multiple properties and they wanted to they said they owned 3 houses and they had 3 children. If the houses were worth the same and the distribution is to each child, you can do that. But as of February 16th, that goes away, because the only property that now qualifies under what will be the new law is the primary residence, and you can only have one primary residence. So it really restricts it. But that begs a great question, Steve, about what happens if you have 3 kids. They're not going to all move into the house and make it their primary residence, right?
Right.
These are parents in their 70s or 80s or 90s. The kids have their own homes, or they don't live in California, or a lot of things. They wanted to keep it as a rental property. Can't do that anymore. It has to be a primary residence.
So the other question I have then is, like, maybe there's this interesting loophole of living in a property for 2 out of 5 years. So, you give one over to your kid and then you move into another one for the next 2 years if you're the parent, and then, reclassify that as the primary residence. I mean, again, I'm just trying to think through all of this stuff because I think it's all so new that I don't know if you guys have had that thought yet, or it seems fairly blatantly obvious in the sense of 2 out of 5 and how that could apply, but is that even something?
Well, it may be, I don't know. I'll say this about Prop 19. It was very poorly drafted, as are many of these propositions. And so as we speak, the legislature is working hard to try to fill in some of the gaps that were left unanswered, the questions unanswered by the proposition. And that's one of them. The 2 years out of 5 is a capital gains tax, federal tax law. Prop 19 is just California property taxes, but they do overlap. And you raise a good point about a possible scenario, whether it can be reused over and over again. And I don't know the answer to that question yet, because I don't think the proposition answered it. So stay tuned. More to come.
Yeah, there's a lot of great questions. Because I've been, like I said, when I started this thing, I've been in this business for 37 years, and hundreds, if not, 15, 1,600 transactions. There are very few transactions that are the same. Like, really nothing's the same, because they're different people, different numbers, different values, different taxes, all of that. So you really need to seek counsel if you're going to do something. When's the best time to get together with an attorney about this, Steve?
Well, if you've got obviously, if you've got a parent or a grandparent that's recently passed and you're in the process of kind of either going through a probate or administering a trust, and this issue is coming up, you should get to your attorney as soon as possible and at least have the conversation to see whether the transfer can be expedited now or not. Because after February 16th, there's nothing you can do about it. By February 16th, you have to have recorded a deed to transfer property. It has to be recorded by the 16th, or the parent, in my example, has to have died on or before February 16th. So even if they've passed on the 16th and you don't submit the application until after that, I think the law allows that to happen. But there's not very much time. So people that are in those situations should definitely be in touch with their attorneys.
That's awesome. How about some final thoughts real quick, Steve? How do you think this is, Steven Wener, how do you think this is going to affect, homes, let's say home values, people buying, selling houses going forward right now? What's your take from being a broker?
In San Diego County, per se, I don't think it's going to affect us very much, truly, because our inventory is extremely low. People are fighting over properties regardless. So even though that technicality is coming into existence, I think it's just more of a grab. In a sense, it's a new tax, right? If people can't have all these exemptions anymore. So people aren't thinking that far ahead, unfortunately, for the people that own multiple properties that want to liquidate. I think there's only so much they can do in this limited amount of time that's left. I don't think it's going to cause any kind of disruption. I would love to see more inventory on the market, period, because there's just so little.
Yeah.
But my personal thoughts are, this isn't going to be something that we can do anything about. We can gripe about it in the future and look back on it, but it's one of those things that'll be quickly forgotten simply because it's the new way of doing business. That's it. And I mean, I wish there was more that we could do, but even what Steven's saying about the bill being poorly drafted, I don't know if they just rush through these things knowing that they just want to slam them through and figure things out later, but get the majority of what they're trying to accomplish done right up front, and just take the privilege away, So that's kind of my thought, but I don't see it affecting our market, honestly.
Either way, there's a lot to unravel here, isn't there?
Yeah.
So, Steven, how can people get a hold of you real quick?
Myself, I can be reached at Steven at SD, like San Diego, sold by bysteve.com. You can also, if you had any questions and you want to call me directly, 760-300-9166. That'll get you right to me.
Awesome. Appreciate you being here. Steven Bates, any final thoughts?
I do, to kind of take off on what Steve's comments were. Actually, the impetus for this Prop 19 was, among other things, obviously it's a huge revenue raiser for the state and the counties, but it was actually to create more revenue or more inventory, because it would really force people to sell properties that they would otherwise pass down to their kids. And so it may take quite a long time for this to kind of cycle through, but one of the intents of the prop was to just increase more property on the market and help with the housing shortage that we are so familiar with here in San Diego.
That's great. There's always a different take. It's all about perspective, isn't it? Like, I look at it one way, somebody looks at it a different way. And based on what we do for a living, we're going to have that perspective. So I appreciate both you guys stopping by. Steven, tell people how they can get a hold of you.
Sure. I've got my email address there on the screen, but if you want to reach me at the office by phone, my phone is 619-296-8707.
That's awesome. I'd love to have both of you guys on maybe in a few weeks, and let's talk about trust, because that's something that Steven does. He does a lot of trust, and I sent you a referral today, Steven, so they should be calling you today. But people looking for trust, and real quick, Steve, what is a trust? Steven Bates, what is a trust, really quick?
So a trust is just a way to hold title to your assets that will allow them to avoid probate. Probate's a court process that when someone passes away, typically if they have a will or if they have nothing at all, the court gets involved. The trust allows them to avoid all that.
Cool. Well, let's talk about that in a few weeks, if that's okay. You guys come back for that?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate you guys stopping by.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Martin.
You bet. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us. You can reach me, martinlopez.com. That'll take you to my Facebook page. You can connect with me there. Please reach out if you have any questions about Prop 19, any questions about ownership. If you're buying a house, you know how to take title, give Steve Bates a call. He's amazing. I call him all the time to get information. And Steven Wener is an amazing real estate agent. If you're thinking about buying or selling a house, just need some information, please reach out to either one. The Steves Got to have them back. Thanks a lot, guys. Talk to you soon.